Hey, I'm Todd Swift, Texas AgriLife Extension Service. Just wanted to talk to you a little bit about some basic things that judges look for in a goat when they're, and you would want to know when you're selecting your goat. The three basic criteria are structure, muscling, and then eye appeal to be an eye-appealing animal in the show. Structure-wise, you're talking about their skeletal makeup and design, and a good place to start is from the ground up. You'll want those goats to be on sound feet and legs with some substance of bone, and that's usually measured here with the size of the foot and the cannon bone. Do they have some substance and some width there? Their legs need to be straight, front with some width underneath. Have a little bit of angularity here, a little turn to the hop. And this is very critical, this rear pastern. Those pasterns get weak, those goats will fall down on them, and the judge is very critical of that structural flaw. So you still have to have some natural angularity here, the foot come down, and a little bit of angle here at the rear pastern. From behind, you want these legs to still be straight, not hocking in or bowing out. You want to kind of draw a box right here. You want some width underneath, or what judges refer to as base width. Again, width from the back end and from the front end. So the whole body is wide from the front to the end. All right, the front end of a goat's very important, as the shoulder blades tie onto this rib cage. You'll see the top of the shoulder blades come up here, and you want them to tie in fairly tightly right here, and you want this to stay flat, the point of the shoulder to stay smooth, and still have some width under here in the front end. Still have some width at the base of the chest floor, but these shoulder blades have to tie in. They can't be really rolling out here, because that's just coarse, what they call a coarse shouldered animal. You want them to tie in onto the rib cage smooth. Sometimes you'll have them pinch right here. That's part of a muscle issue, but the more the rib turns out here, the more internal capacity they have, and generally the chest floor will be more up in the body of the animal, so it'll still have the capacity, but have more eye appeal when that chest floor is raised up. On the hip structure, it's really easier to evaluate hip structure when the goat's on the move, and for that matter all the structure, but look at the hip structure, hooks to pins, hook bones here, pin bones here. A goat naturally has some slope to those hooks and pins, but you still want these pins to be setting up pretty high and wide. When we talk about hip structure, you look at mainly the top of the hip, where we talk about hooks, the hook bones to pins here. Goats naturally have a little bit of slope from hooks to pins, and so they won't be exactly level like a sheep, say. They'll have a little bit of slope, but you can't get too much slope. Starts taking away from structural correctness and eye appeal. So you want this to be right here fairly level, with the pin set wide and fairly high. At the top of this hip, you want some width here. They've got width at the top of the hip. Hopefully they have width down low as well. When judges are evaluating muscle characteristics on the animal, one of the things they look for and talk about is the forearm muscle. And that's this right here, and you can see this muscle bulging out here, has some muscle definition and some width right there in the forearm. So it's an indicator as a total muscle structure in the animal. The other principal part about muscling is the top, because that's where a lot of the prime cuts come from a goat. Up here behind the shoulder blades, the rack area, you want this real wide and plump into the loin. You want some length of loin, some width of loin, and the loin edge tie in high into the hip structure. A good way to look at that is just if that looks like a loaf of bread laying up there on top of that spine. So you don't, when you hit it right here, you don't just hit bone. You hit muscle actually laying up there along that spine. So it comes from all the way here back into the hip. These hip bones lay in there smooth, and then we come down to a real muscular hip, the center, the lower portion of that hip, inside and outside. Have some muscle bulge and definition of muscle back here in their hip is really important to a goat judge. I just talked a lot about balance and eye appeal, ring appeal, and that's just the overall structure and muscle and balance of the animal. The place to start though is up here in the front. You want that neck to tie in high on the shoulder blades, come up, tie in pretty high here, not have a drop here, but it just ties in good and has some extension up in their front end. Their neck comes out high, their head's up on top of that neck, and it's just an eye peel type thing. Just makes them look good in the show ring. Also, you don't want this rib shape to be too flat. We talked about it earlier. It wants to be here. You want this chest floor and this width here to be fairly narrow, but parallel from top to bottom. You want these lines parallel. The hip structure to be fairly flat, a little bit of turn to it, have some muscle definition, is all part of ring appeal or eye appeal. Now we're looking at their teeth. We're looking for milk teeth or baby teeth. You can see these teeth are fairly small. The two central incisors will be the ones that go out first. Usually they can be within around a year of age when these two central incisors will fall out, and you'll see the permanent larger teeth come back in there.